Iniciamos la segunda entrevista en FutureCom. Esta vez nos vamos a dedicar a hablar más de un tema de seguridad. Llegando la IoT, los operadores van a tener que tener mucho cuidado, especialmente porque hay una tendencia que indica que los ataques de denegación distribuido de servicio, o DDoS, como se dice en inglés, están creciendo y evidentemente hay que tener una solución para esta tendencia, porque cuantos más dispositivos se conectan a la red, más posibilidad habrá de que se sufran este tipo de ataques. Tenemos a Paul de la empresa A10 que está con nosotros y él nos va a comentar un poco las tendencias que están viendo desde A10 con respecto a este tipo de soluciones. Vamos a hablar en inglés con Paul. Paul, welcome to Telesimon.com.
Thank you, Rafael.
You're welcome. So, first question, as I was saying to our audience, is that in your webpage you are stating that the average company is suffering 15 DDoS attacks per year. That is causing 17 hours of downtime on their networks. So tell us what are the trends we are seeing regarding DDoS in the market and why you are so emphatic about saying, hey, you better watch out.
Yeah, so if you look at DDoS, it's an evolving threat landscape which we're seeing. So even if you look in the last few weeks, there's been a lot of notable attacks where the attack sizes have been increasing. There's a well-known security blogger called Brian Krebs, for example, who had an attack against his website which caused it to be offline. And a lot of the suspicion around it is because he often writes articles about cybercrime, so it was reviewed as a revenge attack.
Okay.
But with DDoS attacks, we see it for items like revenge, like with Brian Krebs, but also for things like smoke screens. So people are trying to distract IT staff by launching attacks so they can do something else, like extort money or whatever it might be. There was also a case, or many cases in the last couple of years, about DDoS for Bitcoin. So attackers were threatening organizations with relatively low requests for payment, say around $20,000 to a multi-billion-dollar corporation. And some law enforcement organizations were saying organizations should pay it because they couldn't help them out. So there's lots of different motivations behind the attacks. But if we look at the Brian Krebs example, one of the most notable things about this was the size of the attack, which shows the escalating size of these things. So for example, it was over 600 gigabits per second, which is a huge number. And the provider who was providing him protection at the time, Akamai, they were saying the largest they'd seen was just above 300 gig. So it represented a much higher volume of traffic. But what was more interesting was the fact it was using IoT devices in a botnet. So tens of thousands of devices, and in some reports, some of these botnets have over 300,000 devices connected to them. So these are things, not just like your computer, but internet-connected cameras, routers, you name it.
Whatever is connected.
Exactly, and they'd basically been vulnerable because, for example, passwords might be set at the default passwords, and then they could be coerced by criminals to do these type of attacks. And with this particular attack, Akamai had to made a business decision to stop protecting Brian. So Google actually ended up protecting him with their Project Shield initiative. But it just shows the size of these attacks and new types of devices being used in these attacks. It's not just PCs and servers.
Okay. Where does the barrier for defense needs to be put in place? For example, are operators the ones that need to take care of this to make sure that the rest of the internet is safe? Or how do you protect properly from these attacks?
So many enterprises put protection in on site, and they have a hybrid solution where they'll protect for basic attacks, sometimes the more stealthy attacks which are at the application layer. But often they rely on their upstream provider or maybe an MSSP who is providing security services to protect against that volumetric type of attack which exceeds their bandwidth. So we definitely see service providers, and especially in the Latin America market, a lot of service providers are providing these services to the downstream customers, and they can offer it as a service to those customers.
Now, are you seeing that Latin America is actually being attacked as North America or Europe or Asia in terms of DDoS, or still the trend is still behind in terms of attacks?
I think it's pretty much the same around the world. Okay. One of the problems with DDoS attacks often is that people don't want to report it because they don't want to admit it's being down. However, it is often a very public attack. So when organizations go offline, you see a lot of high-profile news stories. Obviously, a lot of the bigger names attract more of the press coverage when that happens.
Okay. Now you launched a product called Expanded Thunder TPS solution, and actually it seems that this is, as you say in your webpage, this is the biggest gun in the rapidly escalating war against DDoS attacks.
Yeah.
Tell us about this product and why it's so.
So we launched a number of different solutions with this announcement. The biggest one, like you say, is around our Thunder TPS 14045, which is a very high capacity mitigation box. So when we look at that, that can do in 3 rack units, so it's very compact compared to a lot of the 6-unit chassis which have lower performance. Mm-hmm. In a very compact form factor, we can stop 300 gigabits per second, but also importantly, as we see the rise of the IoT devices, like we talked about earlier, we can stop a lot of packets per second. So on this device, we can stop 440 million packets per second. And when we look at some of the competitive solutions out there, the solutions in the same range today were around 40 million packets per second for 6 rack units. So it really changes the economies of scale, so service providers can deploy it at a much more cost-effective price point.
Okay, now, and also you recently announced in your webpage that you acquired a company called UpSido.
Yeah.
Is this company related to all these things we are discussing here, or why? What does that company add to your existing portfolio?
So good question. So UpSido was a cloud-based ADC, had a cloud-based ADC offering with a software as a service model, which a lot of organizations are moving towards. So one of the reasons we acquired them was for the technical talent they had on board, but also there was a cloud services controller they had. Okay. So we see the management solutions requested by both large enterprises and service providers to be evolving. So what a lot of organizations want is a solution that can take and manage multiple secure application services at the same time. So for example, in A10's portfolio, we have application delivery controllers, carrier grade NAT, functionality to preserve IPv4 addresses for service providers. We have data center firewall. We have also a GI firewall capability. And so the vision, even though we're going to start off with the cloud controller managing the application delivery controller in the cloud environment, is to take this to manage all of these secure application services. So organizations can have better reporting and also be able to manage both cloud-based and local services at the same time.
And this is something that you already can offer to the operators, or you are still working on the integration between the assets from this company?
Yeah, so exactly, we're working on integration. So this is a play which will turn out over the next year or so. Okay. So this quarter we're releasing the software as a service offering for enterprises using the cloud-based controller.
Okay. From UpSido.
Yeah, with the A10 branding. And then we're going to take that same controller technology for the agility to the private networks of service providers and large enterprises as well. Because we find a lot of those organizations want the same benefits which are being provided in the cloud today.
All right, excellent. All right, Paul, this is everything I had to ask, and I want to invite people to go to your webpage and actually, dig deeper and find whatever they need on your webpage.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.